So,
Groovy.
yeah, welcome everybody to DAO discussion number 11 on Sunday morning here. Got 25 people in the room. We got our Miro board here as well. I'll pop that in the chat. How are you doing, Coda Dan?
Oh, pretty good. I've had a nice Sunday. Been working was trying to drop some XP today, but we found a little issue with the vault subgraph that we're fixing right now. Some of the gotchis that are lent out were not being properly dealt all their XP every time. It was kind of a weird issue. So have to resync the gotchi vault subgraph and waiting for that to finish now. So trying to get this XP script absolutely perfect so we can then automate it a little bit more. So whenever a snapshot vote finishes, we can basically automatically send out the XP like without me having to intervene. But it takes a bit of time to get all that kind of stuff set up.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty awesome once you guys have that because, the more bandwidth you can free up with
Yeah.
automation, the more you can focus on all the other building that you guys are doing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, if you guys didn't realize, the Bugatti Vault does have its own subgraph, and there's a couple. It's tough because as far as I know, they don't have events that they emit. I might be wrong on this, but looking at their ABI, it doesn't seem like they have events for when someone deposits or withdraws their Gotchi from the vault. So that makes it really tricky for us to calculate uh, when there's like basically a couple type of events. There's like a gotchi being deposited into the vault, and then there's a gotchi being withdrawn from the vault by its original owner, and then there's the gotchi being lent out by the vault, and then there's the gotchi coming back into the vault. So for us, for our purposes on the XP script side, we need to know who those gotchis are owned by. But since they don't have an event, we have to use the contracts manually to pull back that information about who the depositor is. That we got that working, but it's we were not properly calculating exactly the lending when they lent it out or got it back. So there was a bit of weirdness that we're ironing out now. But if you guys are ever writing smart contracts, just remember to add events to stuff. Makes the accounting much easier.
Yeah, good to know. Um, yeah, and then I guess you had an interesting post on Twitter asking for some input on the SDK, and people had some really good ideas in there. Um,
Yeah, although one I just put out, that's kind of like just not even just SDK necessarily. It could be anything. Like just what experience, would people love to have in the Gotchiverse? Could be like, oh, I want to attend a rock concert in the Gotchiverse, or I want to kill a boss with my Hattori Hanzo, or various things, like whatever, pretty much. Sky's the limit. Just, if you have a cool idea, put it down. But it doesn't have to just be SDK related.
yeah, good to know. I'm excited about the SDK. I think it's going to open up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, me too. Really been doing a lot of brainstorming on it the last couple weeks. So that'll definitely it's gonna be a game changer once we have that in.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna drop the Miro board link in here if I didn't. I did already, but here's the link for that. It is interactive too for you guys in here. So you're actually able to, for old business, there's a bunch of stickers, hardcores put in there. So as we're having this conversation, you can actually go in there, and if you have a question for me or you have something I would you'd like me to bring up, you can actually grab one of the stickies, type in what you want regarding the topic, and then I can try and relay that in our conversation. So that's something. If you didn't know, you can actually interact with the Miro board as well. So I guess as far as old business, just to go over, We still have an ongoing conversation about sunsetting friends and possibly moving the ticket mechanic or to glitter and having a new kind of ticket mechanic. That's something we can maybe talk about today. This the spillage, we can just gather. I think the sentiment around the hot zone spillage was pretty good. So I don't think there's much to really do there. Unless somebody has a reason why we shouldn't do that, then we can definitely bring that up. And then the big conversation for today, I think we're going to have is regarding the proxy voting thread that's going on right now in the DAO Forum. It's getting a lot of attention, a lot of people getting in there. And I think it's just an interesting discussion to have because I think we were going to have this discussion at some point anyway, with people building so many different things in the Gotchiverse. Like this is not a jab at the vault by any means. It's just bringing out a few issues that might come about as we're, I think we're still in the cocoon phase, right, of the DAO.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we're gonna move to metamorphosis at some point in the future, but there are some things that I guess are concerning the DAO in the way that the votes are being implemented on proposals. And so we can start off with that, or we can pick up on some old business. I don't know. What do you guys want to do in the chat? I'm all for just getting into the main discussion, but if you do
I'd
have,
love to hear the sunsetting friends.
yeah, okay,
Any? I think last week we went over kind of the different trade-offs and upside, potential downside, I guess. Has anyone thought any more about why they would oppose the friends, or what is the main opposition to start sunsetting friends beyond just I mean, obviously there's the practical part, which is actually doing it, like lowering the rewards over time until some of the guys that maybe are not coming to all the calls, or they're kind of on a longer time frame. They check into the Discord once, maybe every month or every couple weeks. They might not be aware of all the granular changes that are happening. So that would be one consideration. But are there any other considerations beyond that that we would want to think about?
Mikey J has a comment there. Glitter is
Mhm.
Gotchiverse, Friends is protocol. Is it a concern to maybe remove incentives from the protocol and shift them to the Gotchiverse game? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's just if well, yeah, friends are definitely linked to the Aavegotchi protocol. Glitter, I feel like it's in this kind of like middle place. If we were to use glitter for raffles, it would almost be like the NFT gaming protocol is adopting this token as its value, as its reward token for providing value to the network by staking and providing liquidity. They basically be it's an adoption of it. And if we, I mean, we don't need to go over all the upsides, downsides again, but right now, friends, the major value of it is speculation on future NFTs, which is definitely something that there's been some opposition to, and rightfully so. We don't want to keep adding new NFTs and diluting the current ones just because we want to keep friends from piling up too much.
Yeah, it's a good point. It creates this, I think one point against, keeping the friends is it creates this constant pressure to create an event, whether it's an auction for land, whether it's, wearables. And over time, it does lower the scarcity across the board of all those NFTs. But there's a constant pressure to keep doing them because there's friends being produced. There's like uh, there's an inflation there, so that has to be taken care of with wearables, has to be taken care of with land, gotchis. all this stuff. So maybe that moving friends over to glitter will take that pressure off. Um, having to do all those events all the time, and maybe more so strategically, like when we think we really need them.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And we can still we could use glitter for tickets and have them basically be mintable with glitter. And we could do other things with those tickets in the future.
Do you think that will impact the actual ghost, like, the ghost token? Because I'm sure there's some, large holders of ghost out there that are attracted to, minting tickets and selling them off. And for a while, it was quite lucrative. Right now, the ticket prices are, they're quite low. So I don't know what that looks like now. But I know there was people just staking Ghost simply for the ability to sell tickets and then earn a yield on their Ghost. Um, well, how do you think this would affect those people? Do you think it's likely they would shift to Glitter and just switch their strategy over from, getting an APY on Ghost to getting some sort of an APY from the Glitter staking and get a yield that way? Like, how do you think those people are going to be thinking about it after, like, post the change?
If they're just interested in the APY, I almost think Glitter is a more direct API. They can uh, compound their rewards faster with Glitter because there's actually more use case for Glitter. People are going to be buying it off the open market because they need it for upgrading stuff. So with friends, the only market makers are people who are they're going to try and play the ticket game by and flipping tickets, or they're actually interested in the next raffle. But then we have this pressure of having the next raffle to make sure that I mean, there's not to really make sure, but like there's people who will constantly clamor for a raffle because they now have a bag of tickets and they want them to be used. So there's with glitter, it's more immediate. But the thing is with glitter, I think someone mentioned it above, it's a constant fixed reward. It's not like friends where if you have a million ghosts, you get a million friends every day. It's a pool that will be split between all the different LPs, which could be good. Like if glitter and alchemica have strong value, then the amount of liquidity that will kind of be attracted to those pairs will increase. But it's fixed. So if you have you could have theoretically one whale earning all the glitter because they're providing the most liquidity and no one else wants to get into the pool with them. So a ghost is definitely a little it's like seems a little I don't know, it might seem more attractive I guess to a particular type of player because they look at it, it's very easy. They see, okay, I'm gonna get one friend per ghost. But as we've kind of seen, especially back a couple months ago, it can get pretty out of hand if there's a lot of really big players. Like it'd be hard to imagine someone staking 50 million ghosts or something and getting 50 million friends every day.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I mean, if we were to implement the system of glitter, staking for tickets, would the tickets still be sellable on the bazaar for Ghost?
They could be, but there's really no use case for having the tickets be a liquid market at that point. It would almost be worth the tickets being sold and bought kind of via an AMM, and you could buy a ticket when you want it, and then sell it back to the AMM when you don't want it. It'd be like a bonding curve, except it wouldn't be a bonding curve. It would be just a flat 50% reserve bonding curve. So basically, it hold well, I guess it'd be 100%, but it would essentially hold all the glitter that people have invested in tickets into it.
Mikey J has an opinion I thought was interesting. He says, giving glitter a long-term constant use case like for raffles, we have at least a couple of them a year, at least. Could be a good thing. It could kind of bolster the price action of glitter and maybe remove some of the erratic price movements of glitter. As we continue to add use cases for it, I think this one constant use case for it would add a decent amount of demand, given how excited people get for these raffles.
Yeah.
Dr. Wagme also has some questions there. Says the SIG prop needs more clarity regarding the rewards for pools. Are we eliminating single-sided ghost staking rewards? What is the exact pool allocation plan? So, what percentage of glitter goes to Alchemica LPs versus Ghost USDC? And then, how long does the change in glitter emissions that occurs in 1 year affect the proposed glitter friends ratio? Any of those you want to take a stab at?
Yeah, sure. So, are we eliminating single-sided ghost staking rewards? My vote for that would probably be no, but I think we could significantly reduce them from where they are currently. Currently, it's one ghost, one friend, and then if you provide liquidity, you get like an extra 10% or 20% or 30%. I think that's actually quite low comparatively. And so what we could do is we could have WAP Ghost be the single staking option, and you might get it would be weighted like we do currently. So if you go to, I'm sure everyone here is probably familiar with the stake glitter UI. Well, let me pull that up here. Just look at the numbers. WAP Ghost currently is 5%. Ghost FUD is 15%. So Ghost FUD is earning, I guess it comes out to ×3 the amount of rewards of WAP Ghost, and then Ghostmatic is the same as WAP Ghost. So it's basically denominated in glitter per block. So I would say, I mean, we could modify the current amount that we have right now. Like, it's pretty easy to change the weights. So 5%, if we're not happy with that, we could modify that or change that however we wanted. So that would be my vote. But what is the exact pool allocation plan? So what percentage of Ghost goes to Alchemica LPs versus goes to USD Matic LPs? 10% is not enough. Yeah, I think we could rework the plan here, and maybe there's some optimizations we could do. Really depends just what our goals are in that. So that would probably be its own conversation. And how does the change in glitter emissions that occurs in 1 year affect the proposed glitter fringe ratio? What exactly is the glitter fringe ratio? Because we're not planning to do any conversion. I mean, I guess we could, but it would be a pretty wild event to do a conversion from friends into glitter.
I'm just thinking in terms of transition. No Future had I thought was a good idea up in the conversation there. Maybe we do a physical raffle for physical merch for friends, and just clean up all the friends that are out there with this physical merch release one time. Maybe it costs X amount of tickets to enter, and then we clean up all the friends that way, without having to convert everything over. I think people would get excited about a physical, merch raffle with friends.
So what would that be? Because we have to. I mean, we can tell people to enter their friends, but they don't. They might not. Would that be basically saying there's never going to be another friends raffle after this? You better spend all your friends.
Yeah, we're having one epic event for you guys to actually enter your friends and just make it so that the chances of you getting something are pretty good. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, just very quick. I would say make it ongoing, because we were talking about protocol versus Gotchiverse. So you could still keep the staking for friends, but use it for raffles that aren't dilutions of our NFT. So I used merch as an example, but you could do that ongoing. Say quarterly. If they find a service where that service can do international drop shipping, they already have the VRF for the verification of the randomness of the raffle. So then it would just be, every quarter we do a new dope merch release or something like that, something that you can use the friends towards that doesn't put strain on the value of our assets.
I mean, the major downside with that is that if we actually do a merch drop, so number one, it's hard to say what the value of that merch will be. Like, what is the value of a drop? Does it approximate the expected value of how much friends people have accumulated, which is at this point it's really probably in 1 or 2 million USD worth, maybe more, probably more. So they might not be willing to enter their friends. They'd be like, oh, it's just a t-shirt, I don't want to spend my friends on a t-shirt. The other point would be the friends are kind of a protocol level reward mechanism, whereas merch actually costs money. For Pixelcraft, we actually hope that we can make money with merch in the future, and we're working on some designs and things to do that. But if we have to actually pay for that merch and like ship it to people, and it's like a cost loss, then it's bad business, because we're not directly benefiting from I mean, it's great that Ghost goes up because people want to hold it because they can stake it, but we don't directly like benefit from that in terms of an actual profit on that. I mean, Ghost going up is great, but it's not like a profit for us that we could then roll into merch. So I'd be worried about that.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead, man.
Like if the DAO wanted to be like, all right, we'll pay for the merch or something, maybe, but it's still, I don't think it's a great business to convert like a digital reward into physical item in a very kind of like it'd have to be done very carefully to do that.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking from a user perspective, we already have a complex staking ecosystem. You have so many choices with staking. Having friends and glitter might be a little confusing, for someone brand new, not really knowing, okay, well, what should I do with my ghost? Should I stake it for friends? Why should I do that? Or should I stake it for glitter? It might be confusing. I mean, I'm all for kind of having glitter be one and all for all these different things. But then someone made a good point earlier how the friends are tied closer to the Aavegotchi protocol than they are to the Gotchiverse. Making that transition will probably have some effects on ghost holders that aren't participating in the ecosystem. Maybe they're just staking the ghost just to earn the APY. But I guess if we're thinking about like the long-term vision of the game, that's not really part of the game per se. That's just the token, that has more to do with the this value that Ghost offers. So it's like, do we want to remove that value that the Ghost is offering to people who aren't necessarily engaged with the ecosystem in favor of this glitter mechanic, which actually does favor participants of the ecosystem? My only question is, those people who are passively staking just Ghost, would they come in and now just farm glitter, and what would that do to... I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, because then we would just have cheap glitter if there's a bunch of whales dumping glitter, and there's plenty as long as there's plenty of use cases for glitter, that's not going to be a problem. I think that's just going to be a better opportunity for people who want to take advantage of that. But yeah, I'm just trying to read some of these.
One idea I was thinking about the other day would be, what if we just kept both, and friends are only for tickets, glitter is for tickets and everything else, and there's like there would be basically a fixed conversion rate between glitter and the tickets, and then the tickets to friends that conversion rate wouldn't change. But there's an issue there. There would probably be some sort of arb opportunity between glitter and friends via tickets somehow. It might get weird. But that would be one possibility. So people who want to keep staking for friends, I think they would, depending on the value of glitter and the value of friends and tickets and stuff, there would be like this discrepancy between the two. But that could be one way forward.
Yeah. With glitter staking, specifically for the Alchemica pairs, what's the major benefit to that? That's providing liquidity. And I'm just speaking more to, maybe there's people in the room that are kind of new to this, that maybe don't quite understand how the pairs work. Like, why are we pairing up Ghost with Alchemica? That's an incentive to earn glitter. But what's the major benefit of that from your view, when we're pairing up Alchemica with glitter?
Yeah, so the main benefit is you're holding the token and you're also providing liquidity, which generally you have some sort of impermanent loss for it, which is why protocols have some sort of token incentive for kind of offsetting that and rewarding people for allowing people to trade. You're basically providing liquidity, which allows people to trade the token.
Yeah, I guess so. Then, trading even large amounts would have less impact on the price if there's a lot of liquidity, right? If there's a lot of a lot available out there, one person can have a much less impact on the actual price of Alchemica, which I think is a long-term benefit to Alchemica, actually, to be adding this extra liquidity, and it's going to create maybe some price stability. We're going to get more demand. I think the overall tokenomics of Alchemica would benefit from this if we were to transition to more of an incentivized glitter staking model versus friends. And that's something, I know people, we don't tend to focus on price, but it's definitely something people have had their eye on with, the Alchemica prices have seemed to have stabilized right now. So we're wondering, okay, well, where is this going to head, moving forward? And I think it's good to have steadily increasing demand for not only Alchemica, but also the glitter, because you're stabilizing the price action of Alchemica. That's the way I see it.
You're not only stabilizing, but you're also allowing bigger players to come in, and if they want to get a chunk, they can. At the current liquidity, I haven't checked it recently, but it's like a couple hundred thousand USD, I think, at this point. So not really very friendly if you're trying to get a large amount, which I kind of think is fine for now, because we don't want people to be able to buy a ton of Alchemica ahead of the harvester launch, because then they can get like a huge advantage. But eventually we probably will want to have deeper liquidity pools.
That could be interesting. And let's say we do have a bunch of whales that jump into the Alchemica pools for staking, and we do have deeper liquidity at that point. The glitter rewards, as a per share of the pool, will go down for everybody. So I guess we would also have to consider what the price of the tickets are going to be. Are they going to be a fixed price? Because they have to be a fixed price, or is it going to be adjustable based on, the share of the glitter pool, how much glitter the average person is earning?
It would. Sorry, I was reading messages here.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So sorry, what was your point there?
I was just thinking about the price of the tickets. What are these tickets potentially going to cost if we have a bunch of whales coming in and getting a large share of the pool? Then there's going to be less glitter being minted for the average person. Are the price of the tickets going to fluctuate in relation to that? or is it going to be a fixed price for the tickets in your opinion?
Well, this is where there's potential like arb, I think. So it most likely we would want to have a fixed price for the glitter to buy tickets with glitter. So you could say maybe it's 100,000 glitter for a common ticket, whatever. It would be fixed probably. It could be something we could modulate every quarter or something. But in general, I don't think it would be fixed. I don't think it would be variable unless we were to basically calculate the time weighted average price, the TWAP price. That's doable, but we don't really have deep enough liquidity to do that in a safe way at this point. Because that's basically someone can easily manipulate that and then they could get a bunch of friends or a bunch of tickets. So at this point, we're not in a good state to be able to do a TWAP for raffle tickets with our liquidity. And we're definitely not going to be able to get an oracle from Chainlink with these tokens yet. So that's why I say probably would be something that's fairly fixed. And as who was it? Mark mentioned above, if could tickets tanking make glitter price go down in that case? Well, I think that situation, why would tickets tank? Why would tickets tank? That basically means there's no raffle coming up. Then it's part of the valuation model for glitter at that point. So if we think of glitter as 80% being utilized for upgrades and other stuff in the Gotchiverse, and 20% as being utilized for tickets, then you would weight those and get the final price of what the market wants to value glitter as. So if it's giving 0% to the tickets, then that would that would reduce the valuation for that part of it, but it would still have a valuation as far as utility in the Gotchiverse.
The yeah, I'd be kind of interested to know the Friends task force, because there's a whole task force around Friends. Like, what's their whole take on this? I'd love to know, because that's a group of people responsible for the Friends rates, and they probably have a really good understanding of you know how Friends have been working out over the last couple months. There's been inflation in the Friends, which has had impact on the ticket price, but that, I guess the way what you're saying is that wouldn't be an issue if we were to go towards glitter, because you can't inflate glitter. Like, there's a fixed amount per block that you can get, and what it comes down to, your stake will determine what share of the pool you get, which could be it could be advantageous in these early stages when there aren't that many people in the pool. I'm just reading over Dr. Wagme's comment here. We plan to sunset Friends completely before the glitter emissions rate decreases at the 1 year mark. Ideally don't take that long. This would mean all Friends functions would be removed at the 1 year mark. We set a glitter to Friends conversion rate and accept ARB opportunities and crazy as part of the process. The glitter for ticket price ends up being a floor for glitter, bolstering its value and thus the value of Alchemica and Ghost. DAO DTF commissions a task force to set up the timeline, glitter to Friends conversion rate, and pool allocations. Include the FTF members as able. SIGPROP can include just above without specifics that will be provided by task force. PC by time of core prop. Okay, there's a lot
So
there.
number 2, we set a glitter Friends to conversion rate. So my thought on that would be we don't actually need to set a conversion rate. We would just have Friends and glitter going at the same time, and over the next whatever period, 6 months or whatever, we would start lowering the Friends rate for Ghost and the other pairs. so that the arb will naturally happen between the tickets. Because you might, if you get a lot of friends from staking Ghost, then you can put those into tickets, and then you can sell out the tickets. And if you get your glitter and you can buy tickets as well, maybe it's cheaper to buy the tickets with glitter. So you buy tickets with glitter and you wait for whatever raffle event. So either way, people could use the tickets as an arb, kind of like an arb between the two, without actually having to set a fixed conversion rate.
Would there be old tickets and new tickets entered into the same raffle? Kind of, you'd have your friends' tickets and you'd have your glitter tickets, but they would be, pound for pound, like the same thing, basically.
Same ticket. Yeah, they'd be the same ticket. We would literally just add a couple lines of code to the staking diamond, which is where the tickets are minted, that says, okay, you can now also take this fixed amount of glitter for minting a ticket.
Okay. And then over time, the incentive for staking for friends would just be lowered to the point where, there would be an opportunity to actually switch over to glitter because your APY will be probably a lot higher than what you were getting. Somebody made a point earlier. We actually had a transition like this very, very early on when you guys went from Ethereum to Polygon before you fully actually launched the whole Aavegotchi protocol. There was kind of a movement from Ethereum to Polygon, right? That's kind of similar in the way you guys phased it out over many months for people to get their assets over.
Yeah, we actually did a friends snapshot on. We basically at some point we said friends on Ethereum are now useless, but we've snapshotted your friends onto Polygon. And so that worked for the majority of people. There were some people, they came in 6 months later, they're like, hey, I have all these friends on Ethereum, what can I do with them? And we just said, well, you can't do anything with them then, sorry. So a couple did get burned by that, but the vast majority were fine. So this one would basically say we have both systems running in parallel, but the friends are going to slowly get de-incentivized by lowering the reward. And that if we start seeing a lot of activity, people saying, oh, I'm going to sell all my ghosts because of this, then as a DAO, we'd probably want to look and talk to those actors and see what the issues are. But it would be a good kind of a slow way to kind of deactivate friends over a period of time.
Yeah, and there's going to be announcements made. I'm sure it's going to be a gradual process, not over like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah. So, Dr. Wyman, what do you think? Do you think that we need a conversion rate, or can we just the basically the same thing is setting a glitter to tickets conversion rate? That's essentially the same thing, but we're just creating this arb opportunity between the two.
Yeah, it's two different ways to transition over, but I feel of just gradually lowering the rewards for friends will naturally make people reconsider a better opportunity, staking opportunity in one of the other pools, whether it's an Alchemica pair or, direct ghost, WAP ghost staking.
All right, well.
And so it seems like, the conversation seems to be leaning towards moving to a new system based on glitter. But the hang up point just seems to be how we're going to get there. But there's two different ways, basically, you've mentioned. The first would be to gradually phase out friends by lowering the rewards over time. And then the second one would be to actually create a conversion rate for friends to glitter. But it sounds like the former is maybe easier to implement than the latter, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Mark, yeah, I mean, how that's a good question. How are you guys thinking of the raffles moving forward? Because historically, the raffles have been based around um, wearables, gotchis, and land, right? But moving forward, we're going to have decorations. We're going to have maybe some other things that we don't know about. Are you guys thinking the raffles are the same way? You know, every couple months there's going to be a raffle for some sort of an item, which is an NFT. Like, how are you guys thinking about raffles moving forward, I guess, as the gotchiverse starts to mature or develop?
Yeah, they're definitely one of our like favorite things to do. I love the raffles. I would love to have it to a point where we don't feel like we have to do one, but we're really excited to do one, and we have great stuff that we want to distribute to the community, and don't feel like we need to have this raffle, otherwise people are gonna like get angry because it's been too long. So it'd be great to get out of that mindset. And we're definitely preparing a pretty nice one for you guys. Still hoping to get the release for that soon. It's a little project we've been working on, but it's not quite ready to go public with yet. But it's gonna be good. And the raffles are tough because they, especially with friends, because there's certain expectation that they need to eat up a certain amount of this heap of friends that we have, and it's hard to come up with ideas that can actually make a dent in that big heap without without diluting the current NFTs that we do have. But
That pressure is the
yeah,
biggest reason I think to move away
yeah,
from friends is and as think about as the protocol grows, right? We're gonna get more stakers, probably more whales show up too as the game looks more attractive to just jump in. And it's gonna further create more inflation on friends and further increase the demand for
mhm,
more NFTs. So it's not like
exactly,
this demand is ever gonna go away or stay the same. It's gonna actually be an ever increasing demand for more NFTs and more,
yeah.
more use cases as the friends inflation rate increases as well. So I could see
And
that
it's
as
not
being,
fair, yeah,
yeah.
it's not really fair to the NFT holders as well, because it's right now it's like primarily for the ghost holders that are getting the most benefit of this. So it would be great if we could move a little bit more towards the NFT holders. And so as a it's there, you're still getting glitter for doing Alpine for Ghost and Alchemica, but at the same time, your NFT is also giving you Alchemica. Yes, you're also spending Alchemica, but it's also giving you Alchemica as well. So it's again, it's not something we can say stake your Aavegotchi to earn glitter. Because at this point, I don't think we really need to do that. I know there's protocols. Recently, was it Sandbox? Didn't they just announce like a move to Polygon? You can stake you've always been able to like stake your sand parcel to earn sand or something. But
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think we need that. I mean, we're gonna have plenty of utility soon anyway for these lands, so we're kind of past that point where I think NFT Worlds also was doing this. You could like stake your world to earn world token or something. But as we move to having more and more utility, we don't need to do that kind of NFT staking because the NFT itself has the utility.
I was gonna say we have a way more gamified, competitive version, where we don't actually stake our assets. We dress our assets up, right, for rarity
Yeah.
farming and get a yield that way from our assets. And
Yep.
it's a way more engaging, competitive way than just, like 5 button clicks and I stake my land and I'm passively earning. You're not really doing anything there. You're not really engaging with the land or the game or anything.
Yeah.
So, I'm totally there. I agree with that. So yeah, I think maybe what's your take on this? Do you think it's time to maybe come up with a sig prop and just see, what because the last one was split right down the middle.
Mhm.
But from just looking at the conversation today, it looks like people are thinking about at least this transition to glitter and maybe um, potentially phasing out friends over time, just lowering the reward, and then moving over. But if anybody is opposed to that, like, definitely come up on stage, or we're keeping an eye out in the chat. I see the sentiment is more towards the transition than keeping friends around. And I'm all for it. Like, personally, I'm all for it, because I don't think we need, like, it'd be interesting to hear from the wearables task force to what the kind of wearables to gachi ratio looks like. But I'm quite comfortable with where, like, the bazaar is at. There's still a lot of activity happening even in this market. Um, there's certain items that don't have very much liquidity that kind of stick around, but even among the legendary items, there's been a lot of movement in the bazaar lately. So there's still a lot of trading happening. The prices of wearables haven't really taken a huge, they've taken a hit, but like many of the wearables I purchased like 8 or 9 months ago have not, the price has not gone below that. So it's still held up its initial value that I paid. So in my opinion, the wearables market right now is healthy, but there's a long-term risk that we could start inflating the supply of wearables, or start inflating the supply of gotchis if there's a lot of pressure to do Haunt 3 just because there's friends around. That could be another thing. We want to avoid that and not have our decisions be incentivized by this pressure of friends being minted and having too many friends. I don't think that should be the basis for making our decisions.
Yeah.
But it will be if we let it just, friends keep going out of control, and ticket prices keep dropping. People are not going to be happy. They're going to want that. But it's just not a good basis for making decisions like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think as the price of Ghost goes up, if we ever come out of this bear market, we get back up to $2, $3 of Ghost, and those new Ghosts are then used for staking. We're adding potentially 40, 50 million friends every day just from single staking. So it can definitely add up. Like we're adding 1 or 2 billion friends each month, especially back a couple months ago.
Yeah. I was looking at Mark's comment. I mean, the myth and godlikes, like I said, they don't have very much liquidity, so the price is going to get impacted a lot worse than a common item. But if you look at a lot of the common items, they're not, 3 or 4 ghosts. They're still 15, some 20 ghosts. That's still significantly higher, in terms of price of where they were at even 8 or 9 months ago.
Since
So
we're talking about it, I don't know if that is pretty much the end of the friends topic for this week, or do
yeah,
we have
I
any
think
other
so.
points?
I think we can put a pin in it. See if there's a appetite for a sig prop, or to put one together, or we can hold off on that and carry on the discussion next Sunday, and then hit up a sig prop after that if we have better consensus on it. But it sounds like people are thinking about the transition.
Cool. So while we're talking about godlikes here, one thing to bring up that you guys can think about if for the game, upcoming, the godlikes and commons, we've kind of gone over that they will have utility in the game. They'll do damage, right? They're going to be weapons, or they're going to be support. So love to hear what you guys think from a game balancing perspective. What should the difference in power level be between a common weapon and a godlike weapon?
What should be the
In
major
terms of
difference between a common weapon and a godlike
in terms
weapon?
of damage. So let's say
Hmm.
the common weapon does 10 damage. No context given, but common weapon does 10 damage. How much should a godlike do?
Well, I think the godlike, part of the godlike's utility, I think, should be. I love the idea of the aura that you guys introduced, because that's like, if you have a
Yeah.
godlike item, you essentially have this leadership position where you can lead a squad of Aavegotchis, and you're gonna have this aura effect on the whole group. So I thought that was a great utility, but I don't think necessarily the godlike should be like a one hit, you just kill everything. I think maybe it should come down to the special abilities of what the godlike can do. Like maybe a godlike has an actual like attack that's a little bit different than just like a slash or stab or it's maybe something different. I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example I could give you. For example, there's this game I used to play where if you had one of the really OP high tier items, you could like actually cast a spell, like a group spell. So you could actually have like ice shards like rain down from the sky on a certain area, and any enemies in that area would all get hit, all of them across the board. So it would have these like essentially very godlike things that you could do that other players would not be able to do. So I think that's the allure of a godlike item is not just the damage it can do, but in addition to that, what sort of special abilities, or whether it's a spell or it's a attack, what extra ability does it have? I think that's, to me, that's what would be the big major difference between like a common and a godlike.
Okay, so what if you're, let's say the gotchis have 1,000 hit points and a common weapon, let's just say it does 100 damage. I mean, I know we can talk about the extra abilities and stuff, but it's at the end of the day, we also need to have a ratio that we like, that we think is fair. I mean, we can add, and we will add, other abilities to the godlikes, like the aura, potentially some other things. But we also need to calculate the base damage. So let's say you're a level 1 gotchi. You have 1,000 hit points, and you got a common item, so you're doing 100 damage. And then you got a level 20 gotchi that you're somehow you're feeling brave that day. You wanted to take it on in the arena because you're an idiot. What should happen?
Oh, I would say you would not stand a chance against that guy. But I will say, what about having, how this question where how many Aavegotchis with like a common pitchfork would it take
Right.
to take
That's
down
another good
one
point.
guy with a Hanzo katana? That's maybe a fight I'd like to see. How many of these gotchis with pitchforks are going to be able to take down this? Because that's where the problem could come in, right? If this guy with the Hanzo katana can endlessly just keep slashing Aavegotchis and kill like 100 of them, then, well, that's kind of a problem. But if like 20 or 30 maybe I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number, but if like 20 Aavegotchis with a pitchfork could take down a guy with the Hanzo katana, then maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of a balance we can find. Maybe it's 10 Aavegotchis with the common pitchfork can take down a guy with the Hanzo katana. But there has to be some sort of a ratio there. But one-on-one, not a chance. Like, I mean, why should you have a chance? You have a common item, and this guy has leveled up his Aavegotchi to 20, plus he has a really crazy item. It would be like the equivalent of me bringing a baseball bat to like a guy with an assault rifle. Like, I'm not gonna stand a chance.
Well, if he was somehow skilled, right, he might be able to get up on you and bat you in the face before you shot him. But if he's running at you from 30 feet away, then yeah, he's probably not gonna stand a chance. So I guess that would be more talking about skill level. If there's any sort of so there's a lot of things, ways to think about it, and factors to consider. Eventually we will have movement speed, we'll have inertia, we'll have sprinting. So could be a ranged gotchi, and he's got a ranged weapon, and he shoots that ranged weapon, then it does a lot of damage, but maybe he misses you. So then you can jump in and start beating him with the baseball bat.
Well, there's also that one aspect of the AP as well, right? Which I thought was interesting, is the AP will limit how many times you're going to have to be strategic. Even if you have a Hanzo katana, you can't just swing it around everywhere, because every time you do that, every time you attempt to attack, maybe it drains your AP a little bit. And so you still have to be strategic with your hits to make them count. Like maybe it's maybe you have to have a couple hits to kill a gachi,
Yeah.
with a Hanzo katana, maybe 2 hits. But you have to have those hits placed accurately, because if you're just swinging that thing around, you'll drain your AP and you won't get your 2 hits. So, maybe you're able to hit the gachi once now because you were inaccurate with your attacks, and now that gachi has a little bit of time before your AP regens to start, coming at you and doing as much damage as they can. I could see that working out maybe.
So this gachi has, let's say it has no armor. It's got 1,000 hit points versus the katana, level 20. Or let's just, to make it fair, let's just say he's level 1. Level 1 with the katana versus, and no armor, versus level 1 with pitchfork and no armor. Should that godlike be able to one hit the gachi if it hits it? And
Yeah.
ignoring the aura, ignoring all that stuff.
I think I think yeah, I definitely think you're pretty much toast there, cuz I mean well, maybe I'm just trying to think of the different stats. If you're maybe a very ethereal Aavegotchi, you might be like annoying to kill.
You
'Cause
might evade it. Yeah, you
yeah,
might have a little bit of evasion.
you might be like annoying to kill. Like you might, have a couple extra minute, like a minute of life extra of just running around like a chicken before you get, slaughtered. That's the only scenario I can imagine there where, you might have a chance, is getting a few hits in. But like, do I think a guy with the, common pitchfork has a chance against a god like with a Hanzo katana? Probably not. Unless there's a group of gachis that have that, then maybe it's kind of like a bunch of little guys fighting a giant, right? It's a little bit different dynamic. But one on one, maybe it might just be annoying to kill that gachi if they're evasive or whatever. But I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think a common should have much of a chance against a godlike holder item.
And yeah, and I mean, this is a very theoretical situation, which probably wouldn't happen because no level 1 with a pitchfork is gonna enter willingly into a battle against a level 1 with a godlike. So any sort of matchmaking would take that into account. So we get more later into like, okay, dungeons. So we have a level 1 gachi with a godlike, and he might be able to do some dungeons, like clear a dungeon faster than a level 1 with a pitchfork. Now he'd have to not get killed, which would be the real thing, because he doesn't have that much hit points. But he might be able to clear that dungeon also much faster than the guy with the level 1 pitchfork. And I think that also makes general sense.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about collaborating in the Gotchiverse. It might be advantageous to, have at least one guy on your team that has a higher tier item to help carry the team, and help get through some of the obstacles in the dungeon. Unless it's a it's like a one person deal. But usually with dungeons, you can go in with a group of people, and one person might carry the team and have a really great item and help everybody get through the dungeon a little easier.
Says if it's all in the arena, differences don't matter as much. But if we're looking at Weapons of the Wild, where one gachi could theoretically attack another to steal Alchemica, yeah. So generally, now this. I think there's going to be definitely some areas in the grid where gachis can attack each other. Like they can. Either it's an actual arena, or could just have some areas that gachis might just want to vent a little bit, and they might want to just have some PvP on each other. But generally speaking, the Citadel, there's no plans to have large scale PvP. Probably a little bit of an arena where maybe some pixel craft square action. And once we get out into the grid where there's liquidators, there will definitely be gachi versus liquidator PvP.
There's there's that wilderness aspect too, right? You're going out into the
Yes.
wilderness, high risk, high reward. You could lose all your alchemica you're carrying, but you could also come back to the citadel with a lot of alchemica if you're able to make it out.
All right. So if we were to just try to just get a sense of the sentiment, because we have our own internal ideas, but I'm just love to see what the power level between it just in terms of raw damage, what between what a level 1 pitchfork versus or a common pitchfork versus the godlike katana should be. Or let's do common versus mythical versus godlike.
In terms of how many points to kill, like a level 1,000 points Aavegotchi.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, if the gachi has, well, in terms of multiples, I guess we don't need to think quite as much about the overall health points. I think what should the multiple be?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Between the tiers, like, is it going to be 10x more damage than the tier before it? Is it going to be 5x more damage? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, if we're looking at godlikes, being a potentially like 1 to 2 hits, I guess you could work kind of backwards from there. Maybe it could be related to their actual scarcity. Like I know commons are 1,000 supply, but then the uncommons are half the supply, and then the rares are half that. Legendaries are half of that again, and then mythicals half of that, and then the godlikes are very rare, where they're I think they're only 10% of a mythical, right? Because mythicals are 50 per item, godlikes are 5 per item, I believe, right?
Yeah, godlikes are anywhere from 1 to 9, actually.
1 to 9, okay. Yeah.
So
So
Dr. Wydme says, so if a common did 1 damage, then a godlike would do the equivalent of 22 damage, and a mythical would do 10 damage. So the multiplier would be 10x from common to mythical and 22.36x from common to godlike. So let's say we have Gachi has 1,000 hit points, and the common does 100 damage. That would mean the godlike would do 2,200 damage. So you definitely one shot it and more. You'd send it back into the nether realm. And then yeah, liquid Kakusha mentions liquidators as well. Yeah, that's another once we've fairly properly balanced gachis, we're also considering liquidators as well in the equation here.
I have a quick question because we're talking about the rarity of the item and the boost that'll give it in terms of your attack. How is this going to be balanced against XP? Like, say if I have a really like a gotchi that's like level 10 XP, but that's wearing common stuff, there's going to be a multiplier for the XP on the hits. So how would that balance against, say, a much higher or more stronger item, like say a mythical?
Okay, so XP, you're talking about the level of the gachi, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the way we've envisioned it, you'll get every level in the Gachiverse, you're gonna get 3 points that you can spend on a couple different things. It's kind of like a skill tree in a way. So attack, I don't think attack power is one of those, but attack speed will be one. And I believe I'd have to look at the exact list. But there's a couple different traits, like I think movement speed might be one, attack speed. I think armor is one as well. I don't think melee or ranged power are part of that. I think those are wearables only. But there'll be ways to increase your damage, like for example, attack speed by spending a point on it. And so if you're a level 10 and you've put all 30 of your points into attack speed, you're going to attack pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah, so that's something to consider then. So those really high XP gachis are gonna have their day in the sun very soon, or eventually.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
So Gotchinomics says a skillful player that has a Gotchi equipped with legendary items should be able to defeat a sloppy Gotchi with mythical items. The same applies for all contiguous categories. The exact ratios about the numbers should come out after testing. Yeah, we're definitely gonna do a lot of play testing with the whole staging environment that we're gonna be working on soon. We're just trying to get start a conversation about what kind of expectations you guys have about how powerful a godlike should be in terms of comparing to a common.
Yeah, and actually, Vanilla Delphia makes a good point too. He's gonna max out movement speed so he can outrun the katana. So that actually could be an actual strategy that could be used by players to get away, like just evade. We're talking about gotchis in the wild. If you see something with a godlike weapon, you might want to just run away and evade. Do your best to evade that person. And maybe the same could be said for the arena, but that's only going to go so far before you actually get hit. And when you get hit, you're done. Like you're one to two hits and you're done. So
So one strategy the katana guy might have, which would be pretty effective, is he would put a lot of points into HP and also HP regen. So then that would allow him to sprint longer because HP will be used for sprinting. So basically, I'm going to sprint up to you, and I'm gonna hit you before you can run away. And I'm going to be able to do that a couple times. I might have some HP potions as well that I can chug. So I mean, there will be definitely a strategy where you can run away and maybe kite someone if you have a ranged weapon, but it won't be. There'll be some limitations on it.
yeah, I mean, you might be able to, like we were talking about the common versus godlike, even with the ranged, you might be able to, get some damage in before you're buying time essentially in that situation. You're done eventually, but you're buying time. And maybe you might have the off chance of actually making a difference. One thing I was going to ask you in terms of battle mechanics is, are you guys thinking of crits, like critical hits, randomized?
Yeah, so some of the weapons will have critical strike, and it's going to be, I believe it's like a weapon specific ability. There's going to be different, I think it was chapter 4 of the Bible, kind of goes into that a little bit. But yeah, critical strike, stun, a couple others will be weapon specific, like wearable specific abilities. Probably will also have, it could be also like an aura that a godlike could have. It gives like all weapons near it a critical strike aura, like a chance. And that will also be something that's influenced by luck, which is a thing that you can put skill points into as well.
Yeah. One thing I guess with designing the battle mechanics is, there can be multiple iterations of this as well, but I think one caution would also be we should put a lot of thought into this before we implement it. Only because we don't want to like heavily nerf anything after the fact because we realize it's way too powerful.
Yeah. Or not powerful. Yeah.
Or not powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, because people are gonna make financial decisions based on the game mechanics that do get published. So it's very like none of this is final until everyone signs off on it and we make a DAO proposal for it. But even then, after that, like MMORPGs are constantly changing. People discover new techniques, then people discover those are overpowered, and this is like what we really envisioned the DAO cracking out and really getting like interested on is like what happens when someone discovers a new technique that is way OP and it needs to be nerfed in a way. Like that's a community decision. It might involve, financial assets. It could be maybe this godlike's too OP, so it needs to be nerfed a little bit. That could definitely happen. People should be aware that that could happen because it's a game. It's not like a financial protocol. This part, the gotchi verse, I mean.
I mean, yeah, it's just a caution because I know we're gonna keep having this conversation. You know, I enjoy these conversations about the game, like battle mechanics, but at the same time, we know there's gonna be that guy who he hears us talking about this stuff, and now he's gonna go buy a Hanzo katana. You know, it's we don't want to do that. Like, we want to make sure that we're just having a good conversation about it right now and not influencing anybody's financial decisions because things could change. We might decide to implement something or bring up an idea that actually affects the value of a godlike in a certain way, uh, good or bad, you know. But that's the point is we need a balanced game, and I think that was your initial kind of question between the lowest tier and the highest tier. What should be that interaction? Like, what should be the outcome of that event? Um, and you know, I would say if you're in an arena one on one with the guy, you're essentially just buying time and maybe hoping that you can get a critical strike in, but the odds are kind of heavily against you. And it would just make for an entertaining battle if you were able to get a critical strike and almost kill the guy, but he ended up killing you anyway. I think that would be a very entertaining battle, you know. Um, but yeah, I think the odds would be heavily against you. But at the same time, you know, seeing that same Hanzo katana in the wild, maybe there's a level of coordination among the lower tier common Aavegotchis, and you have a gang of them, and now
Yeah.
you're fighting a swarm. Now you actually have to use your skill and strategy. You can't just blindly swing at him. You actually have to be a little bit more strategic. Like you said, maybe the berserker strategy or using a some sort of a HP potion to help you could be a big advantage there.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have a weapon with, you might put all your points into luck and have the item that stuns, and you get like 2 or 3 gotchis that all have that item, and they all try to gang up on one player and like perma stun them.
That would be pretty funny, actually. I would love to see that a little ambush.
So I don't want to take up too much
Yeah.
time, but I think we are we're actively doing a lot of balancing now, and I mentioned yesterday the spreadsheet is crazy, really fun. So once we finish up the farming release, and we've been kind of working on the chat bubbles, those are generally implemented to our specs at this point. So we're going to start also moving towards a little bit more of the fun, really, really fun stuff, and hopefully can get a staging like arena for you guys to start trying stuff out. Can't promise it'll be this month, but we're working towards that goal for sure.
Oh man, I mean, no pressure on you guys for this month, but just the fact that you're talking about it in months is pretty exciting. That we're gonna see this probably within the next couple months at least is still very exciting. Yeah,
Yeah,
you guys ship
it's
fast, so we can hardly keep up sometimes.
well, this is the thing, we want to get it out as soon as we can to start letting people play test it, and then we can simulate, tower defense kind of stuff. We can simulate what happens if a gotchis versus 1,000 liquidators or 1,000 like level 1 gotchis, and can play out all those different scenarios, and possibly like hopefully let you guys come up with your own scenarios that you can try out, so we can really just get a full balance kind of a feeling of what the game's gonna feel like. Dr. Wagme humbly volunteers as an early tester. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, very very exciting stuff. You know, with that. So we'll keep that going as a conversation. I'm looking forward to actually, as you guys develop that, having more conversations like that. So I mean, are we? Are you okay if we move on to? There's some new business that we have to cover. That's been in
Yep.
the DAO forums, and it's addressing just proxy voting and you know some concerns community members have around proxy voting. And there's a whole write-up hardcores put together on the Miro board, so you can actually follow along with like thoughts and observations around this. But basically, what it comes down to, and I know Mikey J is in the conversation or in the chat as well, so you're definitely welcome to come up and just give us the short version if you would like to. And I can also go into the proposal here. Let's see. Okay. So this is addressing, this is not necessarily addressing or attacking the vault by any means, but it's addressing this idea of proxy voting and maybe some issues with proxy voting and how we could address that as we get more partners coming into the Gotchiverse that could potentially have large influence on the way the votes are going. So, Mikey J starts off with, the vault is a great product, is a very innovative product, but we're using this as basically an example. We're going to have more things like this implemented in the Gotchiverse between now in Metamorphosis as a DAO to the, in the Cocoon phase as a DAO to Metamorphosis, where we're actually going to have a lot more control over the protocol. So we want to make sure that this is addressed, and that just that there's no one party in the Gotchiverse that has a larger influence over a specific vote compared to the amount of people actually engaging with the votes. So I can just read this little segment here. One of the trade-offs of custodying assets in the vault is that owners of those assets are entrusting their voting power to the vault managers. The VLT governance token is issued to the owners of the assets held in the vault during the 6-month period during the launch. That provides a mechanism for the owners to still participate in the governance of Aavegotchi via the vault managers as the proxy, but it's not a one-to-one representation of voting power to the assets owned. Should a user remove their assets from the vault, they retain the VLT token and ability to influence the vault's vote. The VLT is a freely traded DEX token. Current market value is $4. So he's saying, through investing in VLT, someone could potentially bypass essentially the purchasing of Aavegotchi native assets just by the VLT and have a large influence over the Aavegotchi DAO protocol decisions without actually owning any Aavegotchi assets. That was one of the things he outlined. And then basically the net effect of this is the vault's voting power is transferred from this is talking about the lack of participation from his analysis by many VLT holders. There's a smaller amount of actual participants, and not all those participants actually have assets in the vault. So here it goes on here. The lack of participation by many VLT holders suggests that had these same owners self-custody their assets rather than placing them in the vault, they would most likely either be abstaining from DAO votes just as they have abstained from VLT votes, or still voting using their non-vault assets and are unaware of the vault's VLT process. So the net effect is that the vault's voting power is transferred from the majority share of passive asset owners to minority of VLT holders who actively participate in governance. As a result, it takes a very small number of VLT holders to sway the majority of the VLT vote and in turn wield a near majority of the Aavegotchi DAO voting power. So that's kind of the initial part there, and then his key observations and thoughts. The average total ghost vote for the core props was about 17.2 million ghost. The vault currently holds a total of 6.8 million ghost. So it's split nearly evenly between two voting addresses. So that represents roughly 40% share of the overall ghost for the core props. So then it just talks about splitting between two voting addresses. The average VLT voting power that was exercised on recent votes was 58,000 VLT, and the top 3 VLT holders collectively hold over 30,000 VLT. So that represents a majority need to determine the outcome of the votes. So just his kind of analysis on how the VLT is being used, I guess, to vote on proposals. And then presents a possible solution, but I actually want to jump down to something Hardcore actually mentioned as well, because this should be the focus of our discussion. Three issues. Is proxy voting actually okay within this DAO? And do we care if it's delivered in the correct ratio? So we should figure that out, and I agree we should pick a stance, and we should kind of stick by that. Number two, are we concerned about the ability to own 51% of the vote? So that's definitely another thing to consider. And he points out the DAO facet, and this is something we're talking about as we move to metamorphosis as well. It's just something we have to address to make sure that we don't have any other, if we don't have, make sure we don't have bad actors, for a 51% sort of event. And then we give XP for voting, and not voting is getting XP. This part I'm not sure about. Do the vault participants get XP when they vote on a core prop?
So actually, this is what I was working on tonight. The answer is if they actually. So if it's an event, like we had the birthday party yesterday, they definitely have to fill in the type form for themselves. For the vault, I'd have to check the code for that for the proposals. I believe that they don't have, like, the vote from the vault counts for their gotchis, pretty sure. Because if it didn't, they wouldn't have any assets to vote with. So I'm pretty sure if the vault votes, it gives Aavegotchis in the vault the XP. But I would need to check on that.
Okay. So I guess just throwing it out to the chat there, the community, what do we think about proxy voting? If we are going to be doing proxy voting, how do we want to, in a way, create guidelines for proxy voting? Because we're talking about the vault here, and it's not an attack on the vault, because they're the first.
No.
They just happen to be the first innovative product in the Gotchiverse. Hardcore actually has on the Miro board another example of another I guess organization, the Web3 Bazaar, that is potentially kind of gonna have to deal with the same issues with voting power and having influence on the DAO. So we need to kind of consider that right now in this phase in Cocoon, because once we get to Metamorphosis, we're gonna be able to do other things like upgrading and executing like certain smart contract calls, Aavegotchi and Ghost governance. It just opens up the amount of things that the DAO has influence over, and so we want to make sure that we're just creating some guardrails, guidelines around how we're approaching our voting, making sure that no one party has overpowered influence over votes. I'm just gonna read the comments here. Oh, they're going.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a check real quick through our script here to see if we are giving out XP or not. I think part of our script, I believe it definitely does check the vault subgraph, and so yeah, my feeling is that vault gotchis are receiving XP. Even if their owner didn't vote, because as long as the vault votes, they will.
Yeah, I mean that's another question for us to consider is, we're incentivizing people with XP, and the initial idea behind gamifying voting was to reduce the voter apathy and actually have people engaged in the process. But going through the vault, you're not really having any opinion either way on the votes, and it's very passive. So should there be
Maybe, I mean, I think that's we should unpack that a little bit. Like, I think they do have a lot of governance in the vault, and for every I think for every major sig prop and core prop, they have a vote in the vault as well. So like there is discussion within the vault happening for sure. I think one of the issues that Mikey J brings up is that it the vault token is not a perfect representation of the willpower of the vault, right? Because it theoretically could be bought, although I think Dr. Wagme did show there's very little liquidity if someone were to try to buy it from I mean, someone could do OTC, I guess, for it. That would be one attack vector. But if they're just going to QuickSwap and buying the vault token, there's not much liquidity. But it's still it's a kind of an imperfect representation of the voting power of the vault, because they only have 2 voting addresses. And I think it's a wider conversation on, do we want proxy voting and delegation in Aavegotchi DAO, and what are the rules on that? Because it's not just the vault. There's also the Orion. You guys probably know Orion or Orium, I guess.
Orium, yeah.
They're building like that whole platform. They're also going to be introducing vaults for Aavegotchi and for other NFT games. So this problem won't just be a vault problem. It'll be also Orium when they introduce vaults. Then people will also be locking their gotchis into those vaults, and those vaults could also theoretically vote, and they might not have the same ethos that the gotchi vault does, as far as like transparency with the community and voting. They might be a little bit more independent, I guess.
And I mean, that's a good point too, right? I mean, we're not outing the vault by any means. It's just because the vault, actually, they're run by community members, so they know what's going on in Aavegotchi. They have a good understanding of what these proposals imply when they're voting on them. But I think my concern comes from what happens when we get someone that's acting like a vault, but are also now malicious in their intent in any way to swing a vote to, either they have a personally invested decision where they want to sway it towards themselves, sway the vote towards, their favor, or they actually have malicious intent and might actually trying to hurt the protocol in terms of swaying a vote in a direction that the DAO doesn't necessarily favor. So that's kind of where my concern comes from, as we transition to this phase where the DAO is also going to have a lot more control over the protocol. So it's just something I feel like we need to create some guidelines, at least for new players coming in after the vault, and say, these are kind of our guidelines on proxy voting. This is how we expect proxy voting to be set up, and delegating votes, and create some standards around that. I think would be important.
Yeah, one kind of way to avoid it would be to say that smart contracts cannot vote, and you have to have the asset in your wallet to vote with it. Because right now, this is especially easy for us. We could do this with Snapshot. We could basically just check. Checking if it's a contract would be a little bit harder, but we could definitely check that the assets are owned by who they say who the address of the voter is. And that would generally prevent any sort of proxy voting, unless there is the issue of delegation, I think, which Snapshot also supports. Not totally sure how that works, but it's probably something we would need to enable on Snapshot. But I don't think anyone is able to delegate their votes to other people right now. Which my personal perspective is I really don't like delegation. I think it's like, why even have a DAO if you're going to have all your people delegate their votes to like one or like a certain group of people? I'm more of the let's figure out how to incentivize people so they actually want to vote, instead of like you go onto Optimism and the first thing you see is like, oh, who do you want to delegate your OP tokens to? Yeah, it's so lame. It just feels like a sellout right from the first step.
It kind of, it moves away from the ethos of decentralization, and we have this great technology of smart contract voting. Everybody can be represented, so it definitely makes sense, because the traditional systems we are used to are they do work that way, where you delegate your votes to a specific party or a specific person, and you're trusting that their actions are going to be what they say they are, or what they say that what they do what they say they're going to do. And that's not always the case. And I guess the same could apply, to our governance, where today we have we have people with no ill intent against the protocol, but that might be something we have to deal with one day, and we don't have guidelines in place for how we're handling our voting. It could hurt the protocol. So I guess that's kind of the center point for the discussion, in my opinion, is delegation, proxy voting, and then this idea of how many wallets should be voting with how much voting power.
Yeah. So just to talk about the solution, Mikey J saying basically, can Snapshot check the vault's contract or other designated proxies and allow the asset owner to vote directly and have their voting power credited for the assets they hold in the vault? So yeah, I mean, with Snapshot, that should be super easy to do because it's all powered by the subgraph. Where it's actually, yeah, it would just be a call to the subgraph for the vault to check they're the original owner and see what kind of assets they have in there. I don't think we'd have to calculate their ghost as well, which I don't think is currently being tracked, but theoretically not too hard. And then why I mentioned we might have to ban smart contracts completely is because there could be people who create a contract that can actually sign on Snapshot and they don't tell us, and they start, or like a guild, a guild I think is a good example, or a vault. They might set up a contract without really telling anyone, and they might have 30, 40 gotchis in there without really telling anyone, and they might be voting with that and still receiving XP for all those gotchis, even though the original owners weren't voting. So we would need to probably also prevent smart contracts from voting. So yeah, Dr. Wyman says not allowing smart contracts to vote would eliminate all vGhost voting power. Right, but we could include vGhost voting power in the voter power when we calculate it with Snapshot.
But we also have a proposal, right? A SIG prop for adding. Here, let me just jump to that. Configure voting power for AM Ghost, WAP Ghost, and Glitter staking. So we're going to be configuring voting power for these things. Would it be a good idea? I'm just throwing this out there. Would this be a good idea to add vGhost as part of this voting power? So how much vGhost you have in your wallet would determine, in addition to whatever voting power you already have, how much that would contribute to that, and then that would represent.
What's the value of one vGhost to one ghost? Is it 1-to-1 or is it a little bit different?
No, because I think the vGhost grows over time, so I don't know what the ratio is right now. I'm sure Dr. Wagme, you might be able to provide what the current rate is for one ghost to vGhost.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually not a huge difference right now. One vGhost is 1.02 ghost.
Okay. Yeah, and that ratio, there's probably a smart contract function that can be called to get if it's like anything like Aave, they have like the name of I don't know what the name of the function is, but basically it gets the original value of it in terms of ghost. So you'd plug in the vGhost amount and it would give you the amount of ghost.
There's a way that could get integrated if there was an appetite for that.
Hardcore says every time someone makes a new service that hides ghost ownership, that service should submit to have the new tech added, and we do it. Right, but okay, so yeah, I don't know, that's a lot of upkeep to do that. It'd be easier just to ban smart contracts, only allow EOAs to vote. I guess the downside to that would be, okay, what about a Gnosis safe? Does that count? That's a smart contract. So then Yannick with his multi-sig wouldn't be able to vote because it's a smart contract. So tricky for sure. I mean, Yannick, I think he's another good example, right? Because he's got that multi-sig with most of those assets are owned by him, but a lot of them are also Orden DAO. So it's a DAO voting. Do we want to say everyone in a DAO? It's like a DAO votes together, but we have to. Any Aavegotchi in that DAO needs to have the original owner voting.
I mean, why don't the DAOs register with? I don't know if this would work, but if a DAO would register, DAO or guilds would register themselves on the protocol saying this is our voting power. This is
Well,
what we.
yeah, because they would have to have basically we'd have to have a standard for all of them. Otherwise, like we'd have like 20 different standards. We're trying to mesh all into Snapshot. They already hate us over there because we're so complicated. Yeah, maybe we could have some sort of registration and a standard system. So any vault like thing, like a Gnosis safe, needs to have a way for us to get the original owner of the assets.
Yeah, and if there was an interface where either a community member built this or somebody was able to create an interface where you're able to see the amount of actual asset holders in that specific group, whether it's multi-sig or DAO, and then what the collective voting power is, I think it would just be good to have that as for transparency purposes. I know the information's out there, but having that in one place would also be kind of helpful just for the community to see. Okay, well, this is how the power distribution is among all the voters, small and large.
Yeah. So it just comes down to, do we want to have delegation or do we not want to have delegation? And if we do allow delegation, should the delegated gotchi owners also be receiving XP for their gotchis?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, going back to the original use case for incentivizing XP and voting, the thing I saw that was really interesting is that in order to actually get your XP, you would have to read the proposal and get a little engaged with the proposal and the voting process. And XP was the reward. So I just kind of wonder, like, why would someone that's not engaging in the protocol or engaging in the voting process with that specific topic or
Yeah.
proposal, like, why should they get anything for that?
Totally. Yeah, I agree. We have one of the highest turnouts, probably the highest turnout of any DAO in the world, because we give out XP. But if we're giving that XP out to people who aren't actually voting, then it's wasted. Dr. Wagme says we have a choice for delegation. You don't open the Aavegotchi app and have to delegate your voting power. It's a choice you make with your assets. How does that work? When it's like when you deposit your assets into the vault, you can choose if you want to delegate or if the voting power stays with you. How does that work? Or that voting power is just okay. Depositing your assets into the vault is a choice, right?
I mean, I guess I could make the example if I'm a whale, I have 300K worth of assets, and I sent all my assets to you. You're a good friend. I trust you. And I say, here's 300K worth of my assets. I can't keep an eye on this game right now. Can you manage these assets and just vote for me? I guess in a way that's delegation, and nobody would know about it. But
Yeah.
I think there is a. Oh man, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry.
No, that kind of situation is not really what we're trying to solve here. We're trying to solve trustless delegation.
Okay, yeah, that was kind of what I was trying to come back around to, is the trustless aspect of it. That any two parties that don't know each other, that don't have any aligned incentives or anything, can just send a bunch of voting power one way to a specific individual or specific voting organization, and have them do it for them, and not necessarily have their position represented.
Well, the good news is it should be fairly trivial to do that with the Vault subgraph and Snapshot if we were to go down this path. But we would need to standardize it so other protocols and with like Gnosis safe, that one might be a little bit more complicated. Like honestly, they should probably just set up their own vault if they're gonna, like with Gnosis safe. If someone is using Gnosis safe as their multi-sig for their assets, we might just have to say, sorry, you can't use like Gnosis safe because there's no functions for us to query the original owners.
Now we do have a potential partner looking at integrating into the Gotchiverse parcel, and I believe they work with Gnosis to make it a better experience. That's something I'm gonna have to research more, but if you know more about it, do you think something like Parcel with like a guild management tool / accounting management for guilds, do you think that would play any part in creating these guidelines? You know, maybe you have to have a registered Parcel account with your guild, and that would maybe provide a window into the guild's assets, and maybe implied voting power from that.
Well, it's not about what their assets are, it's about who deposited them. And currently, the Vault is the only one that actually has that kind of functionality that we can query. Probably Orium will also have something like that. We are talking with them. I mean, there's like a Vault ERC 4626. We could make our own standard and say we want this to be the standard for delegating vaults that have non-delegated voting power, basically. ERC 6666 or whatever number we're at now. But Gnosis would have to implement that, which I don't think they probably would. They're not a vault. So we would have to essentially create that standard. The vault, our vault, Gotchi Vault would adopt that. And then we would tell any partners in the future that want to make a vault, you need to implement these custom functions to be compliant with our vault standard if you want to have voting power.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to get into get more details about how that would work. But I think that's a great idea. It kind of goes back to setting a guardrail or standard. Hey, vaults are a great idea. They have a huge use case in the Gotchiverse, but we have these sorts of guidelines you have to follow just so we are, still maintaining our fair voting on proposals, kind of thing.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, hardcore. It could end up being a new EIP. Yeah, exactly. It's an ERC. We'd start out as an ERC, whatever number, and then it wouldn't have to be an ERC, but it'd be kind of. It could be an ERC that we create.
ERC 669.
6942. Standard for, let's see, what is it? Non-delegated. Standard for vault with non-delegated voting power. So, I think it's a good start of a conversation. Very curious what the vault owners think as well. if we're missing anything, or is this going to completely rug their business that they've got going? I don't think it would, but yeah, we definitely want to be sensitive to that as well.
I will say the good thing is the fact that we're starting this conversation right now. It's really great that we only have one party that we're going to consult with, and they happen to be knowledgeable community members who have aligned interests. So this is a great opportunity to actually refine this and create some sort of a structure, rather than if we wait, if we wait 6 months and have this conversation, we're going to have to consider multiple parties while we're developing a standard, which is going to be even more challenging. So I think it's a great time to start having this conversation.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. Thanks to Mikey J for making the proposal and raising the concern.
Yeah, definitely want to, take the vault into account. They have passions and interests aligned with what we want to do. So definitely don't want to like rug a project in the middle of this, but also want to make sure that we're developing a standard around it so that we continue to maintain like fair voting on proposals. Yeah, and then also if we design the standard, I like Hardcore's point on it. If we design it, we get even more eyes on the project. It just speaks to our innovation, cutting edge.
Yeah, because there's got to be other gamified projects out there with a ton of different assets that are also like the future of gamify and lending is so closely linked that there's definitely going to be other DAOs out there that wouldn't want to give they want to have vaults that can do like lending, but they don't want to give away voting power to those vaults. So I think there's probably an audience out there that would also be interested in this a new standard for this.
Yeah, I agree. Want to respect your time. I know we're hour and 50 minutes.
I got 13 more minutes here.
Nice.
Did have a question about spillage. Is there any change in community sentiment on that ahead of the 20th? Or are we keeping it as is for now? And there was some discussion about the proof of humanity versus cartridges. Obviously, this is a Web3 space. People are not that comfortable giving out their biometrics to a new startup platform, even if they do say that they are not saving any of the information, and I believe them, but you never know. So it's definitely good to be skeptical.
Yeah, I don't plan on scanning my eyeballs to log into the Gotchiverse anytime soon.
One idea for the cartridges, I think the main hiccup on that was probably distribution. So one idea could be just be to give a console to all the Gotchi owners and Realm owners, and one cartridge to each Gotchi above a certain kinship threshold. So let's say you have kinship threshold above 100 or 200 or whatever, you would get a cartridge for that Gotchi. But as far as since that decision, we haven't really spent any time on the cartridges because we're preparing the farming release. Want to make sure everything goes smoothly for that. But is a if the community, if we want to keep thinking on that as an idea, we can definitely iterate on it and see if there's any ways to continue improving it.
Yeah, agreed. What are thoughts around like if we were to turn on spillover, would be implementing hot zones as well? Because that seems to be kind of a hit. Like people really enjoy that.
So, yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You guys go easy on glitter, okay? looking at the CoinGecko page.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I had one more question. Someone had posted in the chat. When Rarity Farming Season 4? What are we thinking in general timeline?
Yeah, I think we could definitely kick that off. Shouldn't be any delays for like if we want to do end of month-ish. Maybe pick I think I forget what day we usually start it off, but basically after farming is released and is going smoothly, we can move right seamlessly into rarity farming.
Yeah, exciting. That's gonna be real good. And yeah, I'm happy to see the makers also launching with the harvesters. That was a decision we made as a DAO a while back. So, and then all the Alchemica prices are they're mooning, so that's kind of cool. Glad I bought some Keck a while back. And then I also summoned to celebrate Aavegotchi's second birthday. I summoned H1 Aavegotchi yesterday. I did it.
Nice.
I pulled it on a live stream. I felt like it just felt right, you know. Aavegotchi's second birthday, a second H1. I don't think I've actually pulled a Aavegotchi out of a H1 portal before. I've always bought like open portals or just bought them off the market, so it was exciting. And I ended up pulling a 509 Aavegotchi, like a Aavegotchi, with the original H1 mythical eyes. So pretty happy with that.
Nice. Very nice.
Oh yeah, backside. I don't have a screenshot right now, but if you it's on my Twitter. I actually live streamed it last night, so that's recorded. It's just H1 portals right now. I couldn't believe the prices for H1 portals. I was like, there's only 100 ghosts spread between H2 portal and H1, so only makes sense if you're gonna pull an Aavegotchi. You might as well pull the OG one. But yeah, that was just my thoughts behind that. Not financial advice by any means. But yeah, that was last night. We have some programming tonight. I want to respect your time, Dan. I know you got to go soon, but we have a oh, there it is, Goops. Yeah. 2499 Aavegotchi. I named it Dr. Venkman because I recently watched Ghostbusters and I thought he was kind of cool. So
nice. Oh, you can't see the eyes though.
you know, I was trying to play around with the stats. It's actually quite interesting with the stats because it has high energy and high aggressiveness, but it has really low spookiness. So it has the high AP capacity combined with the high HP and AP regen. So going back to our conversation earlier, it might be interesting as a battler. Aavegotchi.
Berserker. Yeah.
Berserker, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm gonna get off here and get some rest. Got a big week next week. Lots of shipping to do. So hope you guys have a nice Sunday. And yeah, great conversation. Thanks for all the feedback on the balancing, and we'll continue thinking of that. And once we have some initial numbers, we are going to try to set up a simulator where people can play gotchis and kind of simulate the movement and stuff. But that needs to be coded in Python, so it's going to take a little bit longer as our team is not as proficient in Python. We're more JavaScript fam, but we'll get it done. So have a great Sunday, everyone, and you can keep the hangout going. I'm gonna exit quietly.
Perfect. No, appreciate your time, and we'll definitely catch up soon. Thanks for hanging out with us on Sunday morning.
All right,
Later. And for the rest of our friends tonight, we got our Gotchi Spaces tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. We can continue the conversation there and see No Futuristic up on stage. What's going on, man?
I just jumped up real quick because I just wanted to say I put it in the Bazaar channel. If anybody has a mythical item that they're considering trading for some land, hit me up. I'll work out a really good deal with you.
There you go. Yeah. You've been flipping like a madman lately. It's been interesting to watch your flips. So hopefully you get that mythical item.
Yeah, now all this like PvP talk, I'm like, damn, I need something to hit people with.
That's right. Got to get that spirit sword.
All right. I'll see you later.
Yeah, later. We'll catch up tonight. See y'all tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on Twitter if you're showing up. And if not, we'll catch you during the week. Hope you all have a good week, friends. Peace out.